فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء يمان يخطيني به. قالت فاطمة سلام الله عليها فأتيت بالكساء فخطيت به وصيت إليه وإذا أن وجهه تلالا نورا كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. قالت فاطمة سلام الله عليها فما كانت إلا الصلاة بالحسن قد أكمل. وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال يوم إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك كان تحت الكساء. وقال السلام عليك يا جدة السلام عليك يا رسول الله أتعظ ليدخل ما قطعت هذا الكساء. فقال نعم قد عزمت لك. فدخل الحسين عليه السلام ما هم تحت الكساء. قالت فاطمة سلام الله فما قد إلا صادر الحسين عليه السلام قد أقبل. وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال يوم إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك نعم تحت هذا الكساء. فدنا الحسين عليه السلام نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدة السلام عليك يا من اختار الله أتعظم يكون معكم تحت هذا الكساء. فقالوا نعم قد عزمت لك يا حسين. فدخل مع حسين تحت الكساء. قالت فاطمة عليها السلام فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بالحسن عليه السلام قد أقبل. فقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت عليك السلام يا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت نعم هؤلاء كما تحت هذا الكساء. فأقبل علي عليه السلام نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله يا من اختار الله أتعظ لي أن أدخل معكم تحت هذا الكساء. قال نعم قد عزمت لك. فدخل عليهم ما هم تحت الكساء. قالت فاطمة سلام الله عليها ثم أقبلت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتا السلام عليك يا رسول الله أتعظ لي أدخل معكم تحت هذا الكساء. قال نعم قد عزمت لك. فدخلت معهم تحت الكساء. قالت فاطمة فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء قال الله اعلموا يا ملائكتي وسكان السماوات وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت السماء مبنيا ولا أرضا مدحيا ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مزيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبتي هؤلاء خمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال جبرائيل عليه السلام يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ قال الله أهل بيت النبوة ومعد الرسالة هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل يا ربي أتعظني العرض ليكون معهم سادسان. فقال الله تعالى نعم قد عزمت لك. فبت أمين جبرائيل واقبل نحو الكساء. قال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا من اختار الله. إن الله عز وجل يقرأك السلام، خصك بالتحية والإكرام، ويقول لك عزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت السماء مبنيا ولا أرضا مدحيا ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مزيعا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسر إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم تحت هذا الكساء. فهل انتظر رسول الله أن أدخل معكم؟ فقال قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبريل معهم تحت الكساء وقال إن الله عز وجل قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس على البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال عليه السلام يا رسول الله أخبرني ما جلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله تعالى. فقال نبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ماذا خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفي جمع من شيتنا محبينا إلا ذات عليهم الرحمة وحفلوا الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي زنه الله فزنا صعدنا وكذلك شيئتنا فازوا وصعدوا ورب الكعبة. فقال رسول الله والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ماذا خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفي جمع من شيئتنا محبينا وفي محمول الله فرج الله همه ولا مغمون الله كشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا قضى الله حاجته. فقال علي إذن والله فزنا وصعدنا وكذلك شيئتنا فازوا وصعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة. سورة المباركة الفاتحة. تايمينغ صح نزول تايمينغ.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين محمد وآله الطاهرين. My elders and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We begin in Allah's name, who is all merciful and all compassionate. Our greetings and salutations on the Prophet and his holy progeny, who are purified with a perfect purification, as Allah states, Surah Al-Ahzab, verse number 33. إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. And before we begin, may I please, in the honor of the living Imam, for his protection and his soon reappearance, may I please request Salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. As we observe human societies, we learn that the success or failure of a society in any aspect of life, be it financial, moral, or spiritual, depends on the family. We can say that just the way the small bones make up the backbone, which supports the human body, individual families make up the backbone which supports human societies. If families are physically, emotionally, and spiritually healthy, then they will produce children who will be emotionally stable and productive members of a society, and as a result, the society will flourish. On the other hand, if the family lacks in these factors, then the product will be unstable, unproductive, and as a result, the members who will be in the society, because of emotional instability, they will limit the progress of a society. For example, those children who come from unstable or dysfunctional families, most of the times have emotional problems, as a result of which they get into some violence behavior or into drug abuse, etc., etc. All of these are problems which cause failure in a society. It is for this reason that Islam highly encourages the formation of a family through marriage, and Islam has a full set of laws and ethics that govern every aspect of family life, from spouse selection up until, may Allah forbid, divorce. If we apply these laws and ethics in our lives, there is no doubt that our communities will flourish and prosper in the economic, moral, and spiritual dimensions in this world, and we will have an easy entry in paradise on the Day of Judgment. Before we move on, may I please request another salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So we say that the family is the backbone of a society. Therefore, it is important to make sure that the backbone is strong and healthy. Otherwise, the entire structure will collapse. The health of this backbone is dependent on two very important people in the family. That is the husband and the wife. Every lifestyle choice that a husband and wife will make will directly affect the outcome of their family. And that is why a lot of importance is given to strengthening the relationship between a husband and a wife. Once this basic relationship is strong, the rest of the way becomes very easy. So how do we make this relationship strong? This is not my topic for tonight, but a lot of religious scholars, psychologists, and lifestyle gurus have written books and lectures are available. But if we were to summarize, then if a couple has 6 basic characteristics, then they can be assured of a strong marital bond. 1, love and respect for one another. Number 2, mutual understanding. Number 3, servitude. To have the liking to serve one another. Companionship, to be good friends with each other. Respect for God and His laws. Observing each other's rights, and finally having a common purpose in life. This is so important. If a husband is looking east and the wife is looking west, there will be no common purpose in life, and therefore it's going to be very difficult to have one plan for a successful life. May I please have another salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So we say that a strong bond between a husband and wife is important in establishing a healthy family. But the question is, what is a family? In general, a husband, wife, and their children are considered to be a basic family unit. In most sociological studies, this is the definition we get. But as you look across different cultures in the world, from the east to the west, the concept of family differs. And these different family types can be divided into two main groups. One is a joint family system. This is very common in our Indian and Asian families. The second one is a separate family system, which is very common in the West. Husband, wife, either a child by birth or a child by adoption, this becomes a family, and they are independent from everyone else. From these two, there are advantages and there are disadvantages. So for example, in a joint family, the advantage is that there is unity, and because of the unity, there is financial security. For example, we have 3 to 4 brothers living in one big house, and everyone is different in their nature. One brother may be very good, he may be hardworking, he's good at business, he's very sharp in his earning skills, and therefore he can contribute more to the family and serve as a security for those who are not able to provide as much. But on the other side, while there is unity and there is financial security, there are excessive conflicts and dependency. The person who is lazy will remain lazy and will depend on the active and more skilled person in the family. So as a result, there are lots of conflicts in the family. On the other hand, when you look at the separate family, yes, you have your own privacy, but then when problems come in, for example, you need financial help, then you don't go around looking for brother, sister, mother, mom, dad. No, it is you, your bank, and the interest. Whatever it is, it's your problem, nobody knows you. So having looked at these two, which system does Islam favor? Interestingly, Islam favors a hybrid, a mix of the two, whereby each family unit is independent of others, but at the same time they must maintain relations with each other such that they are always there to support one another in times of need. Now this is what we call Silatul Rahim, and that is the main message that I wish to give first of all to myself, and then pass it on to us all over here, and most importantly to the couples that are getting ready for their marriage tonight. After the duties of a couple towards each other and their children, the next most important responsibility is towards their relatives. And when it comes to the relatives, the highest status and the most important duty we have is towards our parents, and then to the other family members, for example, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, and the cousins. In order to understand this, let us look at the Quran and the Hadith to get some light. But before that, one salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So when we look at the Quran, there are many verses which talk about relatives. And there are various different themes related to relatives. One is the order to maintain relations. So for example, there is a verse in the Quran where Allah talks, for example, Surah Ra'ad, from verse 20 onwards, Allah talks about the ulul albab, those people who are intelligent, those people who have the intellect. One of their characteristics is that they join that which Allah has commanded to be joined. They keep it joined. So when one of the Imams was asked, what is this that has to be kept joined, that Allah has commanded to be joined? So the Imam said, one of the things is to keep the warm relatives joined. That is Silatul Rahim. Keep joint with your relatives. Secondly, we have inheritance. If I have surplus wealth, then how do I spend it? The Quran says, if you have surplus wealth, you spend it on yourself and your dependents. Now go to the parents and the relatives and the orphans, etc. And finally, being good towards relatives. 3 verses about being good towards relatives. One is Surah An-Nisa, verse number 1. It's a long verse, towards the end of which Allah says, fear Allah with regards to the arham. The arham meaning the womb relatives, those who are connected by birth. Secondly, Surah An-Nisa, verse number 36. Allah commands the believers to worship Him and not to associate anyone in His worship. Then be good to the parents, the relatives, the orphans, the needy, the neighbor, the companion, and the list goes on until the end. Surah Baqarah, verse number 83. In this verse, Allah is showing His displeasure, His anger, His dissatisfaction towards the Bani Israel. Why? Because there are certain pledges that were taken from them, some promises were taken from them that they have to make sure that they will do this. But they broke that promise. Among that was doing good to the parents and the relatives. Because they abandoned this practice, Allah became displeased and angered with them. So from these verses, we can conclude that maintaining relationships is a command of God and an act of worship that we must fulfill. And this is not an option, it is compulsory. If we fail to perform this duty, it leads to Allah's displeasure, and if Allah is displeased, then there are consequences in this world as well as the next. Now let us go to some ahadith to understand a little more about this concept of Silatul Rahim. But before that, one salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. According to the sayings of the Ma'sumin, Silat al-Rahim is so important that its benefit is not limited to the pious believers, not only the muttaqi mu'mineen, even a disbeliever, a kafir, or a believer who is living a sinful life, even these people will get the benefits of Silatul Rahim, at least in this world. For example, the Prophet is reported to have said, some people go on an evil path and commit sins, but they behave gently with their relatives, and because of this, their wealth is increased, their lives are elongated, and then the Prophet said how much reward would have been theirs if they have been good people. So the Prophet is saying a person who does not believe is getting a long life, is getting more wealth. Imagine if you are a believer, then what would you get? Second hadith from the Prophet, but through Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Imam says, joining relationships builds homes, increases lives, and increases prosperity, even if the people who do this are infidels. Third, Prophet Musa asked Allah, what is the reward of Silatul Rahim? So Allah tells him, O Musa, I postpone his death, that means increase in life, and I make easy for him the pangs of death, and the keepers of paradise will call him to enter it from whichever gate he wants. So in summary, Silatul Rahim has benefits in this world as well as the hereafter. In this world, increase in sustenance, and there are scientific studies which have been done. One of them, which I read some time ago, was trying to see why is it that those people who maintain good relationships with others, who are connected with their families, these people normally enjoy very fulfilling and long lives. So there's a whole study and conclusion that has been done as to why, what psychological and spiritual factors combine to give these people a long life. So increase in sustenance, number one. Prosperity or success in other aspects of life, financial, moral, and spiritual stability in the society, increase in lifespan, and ease in the pangs of death, and easy death. In the hereafter, the reward for Silat al-Rahim is entry into paradise from whichever gate one desires. And this is a great benefit and a great honor that anyone can get. Finally, lastly, in this modern, fast-paced, busy world, how do we maintain family relationships? I know for a fact that a lot of people get together, they have family gatherings, but if I were to ask myself, when was the last time I picked up the phone and I said, Uncle, how are you feeling? Honestly, I don't remember. So what is the minimum possible that we should do in order to maintain relationships? Again, 3 pieces of advice from the Prophet. The Prophet says, join your relationship even if it is with a drink of water. So there is no need to go home and tell the wives to cook biryani and jalebi and all of that. No. Get together. That is important. Even if it is just sitting and drinking water together, we don't need to have anything very pompous. Secondly, the Prophet says, do Silat al-Raham even if it is by Salaam. We are busy, we don't have time, no problem. But we have WhatsApp. At least once in a while, we can check on somebody by just dropping in a text or saying Salaam. And finally, the Prophet advises, and he says the best way of Silat al-Raham is not to give any trouble to the relative. We must make sure, through our words or our deeds, we must not do anything that causes any sort of mental, emotional, or physical trouble to a relative. In the end, we extend our congratulations to the couples and their families, and we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us all the tawfiq to build strong families, maintain relationships with one another so that we can have successful lives in this world and in the hereafter. Before I leave, I would like to request one Surah Fatiha for Marhum Sayyid Akhtar Rizvi, whose book Islamic Family Life Ethics was the main inspiration and source of content for this lecture. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
ہم آئیں گے محفلیں جمائیں گے جب امام آئیں گے بام و در سجائیں گے جب امام آئیں گے جشن ہم منائیں گے جشن ہم منائیں گے جب امام اور زخم ہے ابھی تازہ مکہ اور مدینے کے شام کوفہ کرب و بلا ہم بھلا نہیں سکتے از سخیفت آئی دم غیر سے نہیں پہنچے جتنے دکھ اٹھائے ہیں ہم نے کلمہ گویوں سے ایک ایک چکائیں گے ایک ایک چکائیں گے جب امام اور شک ہے جن کو اللہ کے عدل اور عدالت پر منصب نبوت پر سیدہ کی عصمت پر مرتضیٰ کی احمد سے مختصر نیابت پر جن کو شک ہے بارہ پر باروے کی غیبت پر سب ہی مار کھائیں گے سب ہی مار کھائیں گے جب امام ہے الاجل جو کہتے ہیں آ گئے تو کیا ہوگا کیا ہے اپنی ہی تیاری پیش ہم کریں گے کیا؟ سبت جعفر اپنا تو کل یہی ہے سرمایہ، ہم دونوں تو زو سلام اور منقبت نوحہ ہم یہی سنائیں گے، ہم یہی سنائیں گے جب امام آئیں گے، حال ہم سنائیں گے جب امام آئیں۔ افضل الصلاۃ محمد وآل محمد۔
افضل السلام سلطان امام جعفر صادق، صلوات پر ذکر ہے چھت امام کا، نور خدا شہنشاہ عالی مقام کا، یا رب ہمیں توفیق دے، مد ہے امام کا، صدقہ دے ہمیں حضرت صادق کے نام کا، اے عاشق سبحان امام جعفر صادق، اے دین کے سلطان امام جعفر صادق، باب المراد آپ ہو، اے خلق مقتدا، حاجت روائی کیجئے رحمت خدا، خالی کوئی حضور کے در سے نہیں فرا، مقبول بارگار ہماری ہو التجا، اے عاشق سبحان امام جعفر صادق، اے دین کے سلطان امام جعفر صادق، پروردگار جعفر صادق کا واسطہ، مانگا جو کچھ حضور سے جلد ہوتا، ہم واسطہ دیتے ہیں تجھے آل آبا کا، سب شیعوں کی مقبول الہی ہو التجا، اے عاشق سبحان امام جعفر صادق، اے دین کے سلطان امام جعفر صادق، افضل السلام والسلام علیک یا رسول اللہ محمد وآل محمد، صلوات صلو علی محمد، اے پانچ ونو مل جہاں شبیر سے لے امام زمان ایک بے صدا صلوات پڑھو صلوات صلوات کے اون پہ نثار کر جو نبی ہے بلند صفات ہوئے صلوات صلوات و سلام یا امام زمان فرما حضور یا امام زمان صلوات.
السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد المسيين السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا مولى المولى السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء السلام عليك يا سلطان أبي الحسن علي بن موسى الرضا ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن السلام عليك يا قابة الإيمان السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.